I want to talk about the D-backs' continued descent from the standings and what trade deadline targets are left because the D-backs are not looking good right now. They just lost another series to the Seattle Mariners. They lost 2 out of 3, and you could really blame the offense in this series for the last couple of weeks. I would have told you more it's on the rotation or the bullpen, but no, this one's on the offense because they got shut out in the series finale. Like, you count on one hand how many times the D-backs offense has been shut out this season. You could probably only count with a couple of fingers because it has not happened a lot this year. And the offense did not look good on Sunday. There was only like one guy that even got to second base in Sunday's game. The offense scored only 4 runs in game two, enough to win the game, but not a lot. And then 2 runs in game one. The offense just did not show up in this series. And there's a lot of weaknesses on this D-backs team right now. And we've heard Mike Hazen in this front office talk about urgency, as we say a lot on this podcast. And it's a big question about how much you want to mortgage the future right now for a chance to win in the present, right? How much capital of the D-backs future in terms of prospects should the D-backs put on the table to go out there and acquire some dudes at the deadline? And I say, I don't think you're going to have to wager really a lot in terms of blue chippers, in terms of high ranking, high tier prospects in your system, because I'm looking at some of the trades from this weekend. You look at David Robertson, 2 fringe top 30 prospects from the Miami Marlins system. You get a fringe top 20 guy for Max Scherzer. Same with Jordan Montgomery. You get like 2 fringe top 30 guys, I think, back from their system. Like, the D-backs have more than enough pieces to go out and acquire the Jordan Montgomerys, the Jordan Hicks, the David Robertsons of the world, because the D-backs team have a loaded farm system. And if you look at the equivalent in their players to some of the trades that we've seen, like the D-backs might have only given up like their 24th prospect or something in their system because their prospects are better than most teams. And so the fact that the D-backs right now are not going out there and making moves, like, it's going to leave a lot of D-backs fans, and personally me, not feeling good if the D-backs go past this trade deadline and they don't make a move. They're linked to a lot of guys right now, but we saw this past offseason, right, when they were linked to like the Xander Bogarts of the world. And maybe it was a good maybe the D-backs dodged the bullet there by not giving Xander Bogarts that major contract. But this D-backs team, if they go through this trade deadline and don't make any moves, like, how can you look at this front office with the same credibility they looked at them before and say, you guys are kind of being hypocritical when you say we care about this season, we care about urgency, but yet a team like the Rangers is making moves. And yeah, I don't love what the Dodgers are doing because the Dodgers are just trying to convince us that all players are going to become good once again when you wear that Dodgers blue and white. Like, the Dodgers are just trying to tell us that they're King Midas and whatever they touch turns into gold. It doesn't matter that they're actually trading for underperforming players because they're going to get back to their career normals when they get in our uniform. Maybe that's true or not, because I kind of had, when we did that trade deadline target podcast last week, I said tier 3 guys, yeah, they're kind of volatile, but you get them with Brent Strom, we could turn them around. So maybe the Dodgers have the same philosophy, but at least the Dodgers are going out there and making moves, right? Like, I would have liked to add a Lance Lynn and a Joe Kelly to this D-backs team because I just think it would have been potentially better than the options that the D-backs are already throwing out there before. And even guys outside of that, like the Max Scherzers and the David Robertsons of the world and the Jordan Hicks of the world, like, these are all guys that it did not take a lot to acquire them. So when you're looking at players that are still available on this trade deadline market, like, the D-backs can still go out there and still make some moves to improve this team. And once again, I don't think you have to give up major prospects for pretty much anyone that's been discussed on this trade deadline, because quite frankly, the players that are rumored at this deadline, now that Otani's off the market, it's not like you're dealing with the Juan Sotos and the Manny Machados of the world who were all once deadline trades. Like, there's no major superstars on the market right now that I think you could deal for. A Giolito is one of the bigger name prizes that you could have acquired, and the D-backs definitely have the pieces to go out and get him. But unless like a Dylan Cease's move, like, I know a Max Scherzer is probably a pretty big name, but he is 40 years old, like, he basically his age matches his salary. It's like $40 million for a 40-year-old pitcher. So outside of Max Scherzer, like there's some big names, maybe like a Justin Verlander, but there's not going to be any superstars in their prime moved at this deadline. Dylan Cease is probably like the most likely guy. Maybe a Shane Bieber if he was healthy. I don't think a Corbin Burns is going to get moved because the Brewers are pretty good right now. So a lot of the best players on the market right now are going to be complementary pieces to your team. So I don't think it's going to take a lot if the D-backs want to get in the game because some guys are still available on this trade deadline market. A guy like Michael Lorenzen from the Tigers, Rod also from the Tigers, Scott Barlow, Jack Flaherty. Like there's more. It's more about the teams that are going to be selling that still have pieces. Like the Detroit Tigers got a bunch of pieces in that bullpen that I think would be really interesting. The St. Louis Cardinals, a lot of pieces in that bullpen that I think would be really interesting. The Rockies as well. The Mets have a couple of rotation and bullpen pieces as well. So when I look at the players that are still on the market, like the D-backs can still upgrade their rotation. The D-backs can still upgrade their bullpen. If the D-backs really want to, they can upgrade even their outfield or corner infield as well. I don't know how aggressive the D-backs want to get. Like you could take a swing on a Tommy Pham if you want. Maybe a Randall Grichuk from the Colorado Rockies if you feel like the Lourdes Gurriel can't hold up for the 50-game stretch down the stretch. Or maybe you trade Lourdes Gurriel for a starting rotation piece that's like an expiring contract. I know the Giants have a little bit of a logjam in their rotation. Maybe trade Lourdes Gurriel for one of those pieces in their rotation. Like there's still a lot of things that the D-backs can do with the place with the pieces on their major league roster, with the pieces in their farm system. Like the D-backs are loaded with depth, and they could probably unload some of their pieces and go get some relievers or some starters to go address some of their other weaknesses and concerns on this team. But if the D-back just sit on their hands, sit on their laurels, this whole deadline and end up doing nothing, I will have to look at this front office sideways and be like, how can you talk to me about urgency and knowing that this team has weaknesses and not addressing any of them? It would make me feel like this front office is kind of talking out of both sides of the mouth, doing a little Harvey Dent two-face, and I wouldn't enjoy that very much. This D-backs team is young. I don't think you have to give up the Drew Jones or the Jordan Lawlers of the world, but this D-backs team is young, and you never know how long your championship window is. So because this D-backs team can make the postseason, they have enough talent to at least make it to the dance. As we've seen the last few years, once you make it to the dance, anything is possible. So I do think the D-backs should make every move possible to make sure this team makes into the postseason and you don't have a second half collapse like you saw with the San Diego Padres a couple years ago.